Climate change is associated with shifting rainfall patterns and increasing temperatures globally. This is likely to cause widespread forest decline in regions where drought is predicted to increase in severity and duration. We've already seen major droughts in the US, Southern Europe, Russia and Australia. But what exactly is it about climate change and drought that's affecting trees and their strategies to survive? Forests account for just over 30% of our landmass and are a vital foundation to a host of ecosystems across the globe. On average, one person uses the same amount of oxygen given off by 3 trees. Scientists who study forests have discovered something disturbing about the way prolonged drought affects trees. How is this decrease in rain and prolonged drought affecting trees? Scientists have worked out that it's to do with the way trees drink. Trees suck up water through their roots, through channels that run through their trunk, similar to blood vessels in a human system, and these channels are called xylem. Inside the xylem we can see the life-giving water being pulled up towards the leaves as the tree drinks thirstily from the soil. Drought forces the trees to suck harder with such force that air bubbles enter the xylem, as you can see in red. This is called an embolism. This build-up clogs the water channel and dehydrates the tree, which is known as hydraulic failure. If this persists, it means thirst, starvation, and eventually death for the tree. Trees use a number of complex strategies to balance their hunger for CO2 and thirst for water. The safety margin at which they invoke this delicate survival technique is important to better understanding the severity of drivers putting pressure on this process. So whilst it's important for plants to drink through their roots, they need to eat too, and essentially they do this through little holes in their leaves called stomata. When trees open their stomata to eat, they lose water through a process called transpiration. This is a necessary trade-off in order to absorb carbon dioxide. When drought-induced hydraulic failure occurs in the xylem because of a build-up in trapped air bubbles, the tree closes its stomata to conserve water, but this results in a loss of productivity and growth. Trees in wet tropical zones like this concentrate on growth more than conservation, which actually makes them more vulnerable to drought-induced situations that climate change has been associated with. Resistance to embolism is dependent on xylem structure, but a tree's ability to adapt to the demands of drought is limited to their early years of growth. Recent research by Choat from the University of Western Australia has shown that 70% of 226 species across a range of forest biomes operate at a narrow safety margin close to hydraulic failure. Trees' vulnerability to drought-induced embolism is independent of mean annual precipitation. So that basically means that in wet zones like this, trees are just as vulnerable, if not more so, than in dry zones like through here. Typically, it takes generations for trees to build up resistance to embolism through natural selection, but the pace of global climate change is outstripping forests' ability to cope. The issue of fatal hydraulic failure in trees on a global scale is a multifaceted one. In the short term, we could see increased wildfires, and in the long term, we could see major carbon sinks being reduced in capacity.